I got a call. We're restarting. I turned this piece into a retreat piece. And I ended up, you can see, obviously there is like no rhyme or reason to these colors. I ended up just stitching whatever was nearby. So sometimes I would just pick up like someone's ort from the table or their ort jar if they had like a long piece, and I would stitch. I grabbed a bag from the freebie table that had just a whole bunch of like random bits of leftover floss. The kind of thing that you're kind of like, this really just needs to like go in the trash. But no, it doesn't. I have a use for it, and I would just pull out a color and stitch. Sometimes I would turn to whoever I was sitting next to and I would let them pick out a color and I would stitch it. I loved making all the witches little green witches. I loved using, she has some metallic for her hair, and there's a metallic spider, of course. I love this little witch taking a nap. She's got her color coordinated outfit ready to go when she wakes up. I have no idea what this thread was, but it was a variegated. It was like, I had one strand of it and it was perfect for that branch, and I don't know what it was, but it's awesome. It was just so much fun. It was so fun. And it has great memories of the retreat, which is also extraordinarily fun. It's stitched on, this is exotic orchid. It doesn't feel that exotic. It doesn't say. My back on this is a mess, but that's okay. Special orchid? No, there's a thread I just used that has an orchid in its name, so I have no idea what this is, but it's a Lugana. I'm also stitching Barbara Anna Witch Cat on the same color, and I have Witch In, and I think one other of this like series-esque little witchies that I might put also on the same purple Lugana. But this piece in particular, I believe I will be treating to a trivet treatment. It fits quite perfectly. I mean, the trivet right now is covering some things, but you get it. It's super cute. Have a little teapot for the little house. I love it. So this is probably the most likely to be FFO'd next. At least I hope so, because that would be great. And this trivet was a gift from the incomparable Bendy Stitchy, because I complained that there are never trivets at my thrift stores, and she was like, we have hundreds, and she sent me one, and that was before we were even friends. And it was a beautiful moment. And that also means this has been sitting here for about 3 years, and I haven't done anything with it. So it's time. Okay, who's next? Another fabulous retreat piece. This is Zippity Do by Lottie Da. You know, this song has some iffy connotations now and then, but I was ignorant then, and now I know better. So I'm not really sure how I feel about this, except that I love this piece because I stitched it along with Mitch Stitch, my girl Mitchie. We started it at the first StitchCon. That was when I first met her. We became fast friends, and we kitted this up together at Keepsakes. I think she already had the pattern and she was going to kit it up, and I was like, I love that pattern. I also want to stitch it. And she was like, stitch it with me. And I was like, yes, I will do anything that you tell me to do. Let's do it. And my first la-di-da, definitely not my last. And it's also my first project with silks, and probably my first project on opalescent fabric. This is Helix, Crystal Helix, probably a 32 count, and it's stitched with NPIs, and we actually bought the NPI, and I felt so fancy. There is supposed to be a border. I have held off stitching the border because I thought to myself, well, see what frames you can figure out, and I still have no idea what I'm going to do with this. I was thinking it could make like a cute little roll-up situation. I don't know what it would do, but who knows. Oh, it is so cute. I do love it. I love it super much. And I finished it before the next StitchCon, so I was also proud of that. It was before I had 10 billion whips. Those were the days. And speaking of la-di-da, This is Something Wicked by Lottie Da. I think it could be called something else, to be honest. I don't remember. This was my first, possibly my first project on 40 count. This is a little skinny piece of Weeks Dye Works putty that I got on Stash and Load, and it turned out to be a bit of a smaller piece than advertised, so I couldn't use it for the piece I had in mind when I bought it. But I thought, you know, it would be super cute on that tiny, delicious fabric. This gray that I used for the text is actually left over from the other Lottie Da piece, and so I liked that it found a new home. Her boot is obviously just 310 because black doesn't need to be silk unless you feel like it, and I was cheap at the time, so I didn't feel like it. I know I used steamed broccoli for one of her sock colors. I'm not sure what the other one is. I think it was maybe a Victorian motto. And like I said, this was one of my first 40 count projects, definitely my first 40 count finish. I also stitched most of this in hand, which was my first time in hand. And it was a good project for that, especially like just filling in this boot. Also, like so much of this boot, I stitched this 2/2, which is not really the best on 40 count, especially in hand. So the inside of this boot is like all kinds of crazy, all wabi-sabi. You can't really tell. If you look closely, you can. It's super dense. There's like, I got off by half a stitch, and for the life of me, I couldn't figure it out. And every time I thought it was figured out, it wasn't. And that's fine. Don't know what I'm gonna do with this. Would like to FFO it this Halloween because I've got all these Halloween stitches. So let's get them done. Oh, this is so fun to revisit because it's been a while since I stitched most of these. This is a Margaret Sherry piece, obviously. I always love her cats. Oh, look, you can kind of see. Well, right there, it looks like the hoof discolored this, but it might just be a shadow, but it doesn't matter because I'm gonna frame it up, or maybe put it in a little hoop frame. Anyway, I've always loved Margaret Sherry's cats because they're so cute and fluffy. I don't love backstitch, but I do really love that this piece has such smart backstitch, so it's not like every bit of every single flower is stitched, but by backstitching just a little bit, you get this insane dimension added to your piece. And then obviously his whiskers and his little floofies are backstitched, but they're the kind of backstitching that like, it's kind of important, but you can also kind of just, you know, do as the spirit calls. I just love this little roly-poly Jam's cousin. He's adorable, and he's got his flowers. And why do I not have this hanging up? I don't know. I bought this kit off of eBay, I think. And then I went and I after I finished it, I listed the chart on like a Stash and Load group, and I mailed off just the cover photo, not the chart. And then I could not find the chart for the life of me, so I must have not made a working copy and then just like tossed my working copy at the end. But it was actually the original, so I apologized profusely and refunded the money to this very kind person who had bought it for me. Actually, I think it came with the threads, so she may or may not have gotten my extra threads. Anyway, he's a little cutie. Oh, here's another retreat piece. I worked on this while I was also at the Stitch Shenanigans retreat. Oh, let's zoom out. Well, we could. Ooh. Okay. I also worked on this at the Stitch Shenanigans retreat. Her skin color is showing up weird on camera. She's showing up pretty green. She's not supposed to be, but we'll deal with that later. This is The Tea Keeper by Cathy Barrack. I got this pattern as a gift, and I can't remember who it is from. It might be from Laura, my StitchCon roommate the first year. I absolutely love this piece. I know I mixed up some of the colors. Some of them are kind of called for. This teacup is like all kinds of, I just put in what I felt looked cool. Obviously I changed the cat to orange because jam. I did her bird. I gave her a top knot. Yeah, it was a really fun piece. I don't love stitching alphabets, but I remember kind of enjoying this one. I also remember that I worked on this for a Magical Stitches assignment, and it was a perfect project for that. And I don't remember why, but I am grateful for that even now. I don't know what I'm saying. This is on a totally mystery linen. I think it feels like it's probably a 28 count. I got it in a lot on eBay and I have no idea what it is, but it was perfect for this piece. I would love to finish this and hang it in my kitchen. I don't really have wall space in my kitchen, but I don't know, put it somewhere fun. I have another tea piece that just makes me so happy, and this one is definitely a chart from my StitchCon roomie, Laura. Oh! Iced tea! Get it? Get it? It makes me so happy. This was also a mystery piece. I think at one point I identified it as Picture This Plus Crystal something. I don't remember anymore, but you get the idea. It was also in a box of fabric, like a kind of like a grab bag situation. This is a Victorian motto purplish blue that I thought worked really well here. I think it's just like a called for solid blue. I passed the stash on this chart. And the rest is called for. And I just think it is the cutest possible little buddy in a teacup. This design is by Midnight Stitching, and I love it. He is so cute. He deserves to be finished post haste. Speaking of StitchCon, this is a piece that did I start this one at StitchCon? Does it go that way? Hold on, I'm mixing up my globe. No, I can't go that way. Okay. Goodness. Okay. So Delicious Threads, Jen and I, she is in my NorCal Stitchers group. We were going to be going to StitchCon, and we thought to ourselves, do you know what? We should work on the same project. And I had received this from Olivia and Elena B for Stitchy Christmas because the moon, and she also owned it. She owned it, and I don't think she had, oh yes, okay. So I knew that I was going to bring this one to StitchCon. I had already started it because I was afraid of not, did I start it? I honestly don't know. I can't remember. Doesn't really matter. I brought it to StitchCon. Jen kitted hers up at StitchCon at the trunk show. So the first year the trunk show was just like right outside the stitching room. And so she just went and grabbed a beautiful blue sparkly under the sea fabrics. She kitted it up with all color and cottons. I swapped in, so I don't think any of this is called for, but it's close at least. And then I swapped in color and cotton for my moons. These are some of my favorite. This is Inkwell. It's like one of my favorite color and cottons. This one I actually cannot remember the name of, but it's a beautiful moon color, and it's what most of my moons are stitched in. I'll find it at some point, I think. This fabric I had gotten kitted up with a chart that is actually fully finished and out in my living room, and I swapped out for a blue fabric, and so this was then just in my stash, and I think it is just Weeks Dye Works linen. That's, I don't think that linen should be allowed to be named linen as a color, or floss. The floss named linen is equally confusing. Oh, this is such a fun trip down memory lane, because next we have House of Cooking, and this piece, this is Nikyscreations. This was one of my first pieces. This was the first piece that I was gifted by a fellow stitcher. Itty Bitty Stitchy Brittany was working on it, and I was like, it's so cute. And she was like, I'll send it to you when I'm done. And I was like, what? You don't have to do that. And she's like, no, I'm gonna do it. And she did. And so because of that, I felt an obligation to stitch it immediately and then like pass it on to somebody. She never gave me that messaging, but it's just, that's how I felt. I needed to treat it. And so I did. It was great because I did end up stitching it pretty fast. Now, obviously it's 3 years later and I haven't FFO'd it. But it's stitched all in DMC. I even put the window in at the wrong point somewhere and had to rip it out, and I actually ripped it out. I was super proud of myself because I do a lot of fudging. But I don't know what it was, but she made me super happy. I have a vision for this piece, which is to make a little wall hanging of sorts, and it will be hanging from, that's right, a spoon. How adorable is that? How perfect is that? She's holding her spoon. You can tell this was stitched before I got jam because the cats are not orange. But I thought that would be just like the most adorable project. I have some like homespun that would look good with it, but I just am not a motivated finisher. So eventually that will happen, perhaps. All right, next up, another early on TopKnot project. This is, honestly, I don't know what the name of this is because I just call it the Moon Ladies. I think it's called Moon Phases Sal. This is by the Little Stitcher shop. Oh no, I really don't remember. It's been a minute. I will link her below. She sells on Etsy. She's got a lot of really cute things. This originally came out as a Sal. I think that there's some text, and then there's also another version with the other phases of the moon. So this is the new moon, and I always mix them up, so I'm not gonna say the wrong thing and be embarrassed. But then like the other one, she's all white, and then black, white, obviously. You get it. You're smart. It's awesome. I decided after I stitched this that I was kind of ready to be done with it, and I wasn't gonna stitch the other half of it. I dyed my own Ada for this. I did a coffee dye, a little bacon-based action. I really love how it turned out. And I was gonna do them on 2 different pieces, so you can see there's quite a lot of space. And really I could potentially, if I wanted to do the other row, I could squeeze them in down here, but I don't want to. This is good. This is on 14 count, and at the time I was feeling some sort of way about 2 strands on 14 count, especially because this is gonna be, like, I wanted this to be full coverage. So I thought to myself, do you know what's really annoying? Stitching with 3 strands because you can't use a loop start. So I did this with 4 strands, and it's super chunky. It's like fluffy and it's very dimensional, and that's cool, but it's super chunky. It was not the most fun to stitch. It used up a lot of floss. I mean, it's just DMC, but still. But it's okay because it did turn out absolutely beautiful, and it was my first and only time so far dyeing fabric. I've decided that's not really where I find joy in my stitching. Next up, we have this little a star dancing in the night. This just made me super happy. I found it in my mom's stash. They're supposed to be little bead, like choom, pew, 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 but they're supposed to be metallic, and I didn't have the metallics, and I was like, this looks good, and I haven't finished it yet. I have some ideas for what I might do with this, so we'll see what happens. Oh, this is another StitchCon story. Oh, this one is so good. How have I not finished this? I don't know. Wow. These moon colors might look familiar because I did indeed use them on that lunation piece. This is La Luna. It is the first in the Nocturne series from Cozy Egg. It, I think, is still the only one, and I am just holding my breath for when she releases something else for us. It is so beautiful. I love this piece. I just love it. I love it so much. This is a Lakeside Linens, oh, I want to say charcoal or cauldron or midnight. I have no idea. I'll try to find out somewhere. I wrote it down surely. I'm pretty sure this is stitched in Storm Clouds, which is my favorite gas color. It was probably the first time I stitched with it, and I fell in love with it. So much so that that's what I'm stitching my Life After Death in. And then I think I subbed out the other colors in this piece. I didn't have a lot of the called for. So it was called, I think it was almost all weeks. So I did a lot of substitutions, but I tried to keep it kind of close. And I put in the final stitches of this the very last night of StitchCon 2019. And then was like sitting there thinking, why didn't I finish this like first thing? Because then a whole bunch of people would have been able to applaud me and look at it, and there were very few people left. But it's okay. It was fun. I super love it. It's also on 40 count, and it's also 2/2, I think. Yeah. Oh yeah. And I have a whole extra spot. So Michelle, if you feel like designing another little something, I've got space and they can be friends, but also no pressure. Ooh, it's so good. Okay. This one is a little pearl cotton kit. This is, I think, a Bent Creek or a trilogy. It's something that my mom had in her stash, and I was like, I'll stitch it. And this was the first project I did in hand, because stitching in hand with pearl cotton on a nice like open weave ended up being really great. I find that in hand stitching is really hard for me to do well with 2 strands because it gets too tangly, and so pearl cotton, you just got the one. Good deal. I have no idea what this one is called. I do, however, know what I was going to use to finish it, which is a piece of the infamous skirt, or dress. This was a dress that Felicity Stitches, Jen, got while out thrifting with McKenna and Arlene, and I'm not sure who else, Diana, I think, at the first StitchCon, and they came back, and of course Arlene is like, ooh, can we stitch on that? Turns out you can, but it's quite painful, and this is like a 55 count, and it's uneven, so it's not great. But no problem, because backing fabric, and so they ripped it up, and a bunch of us walked away with a piece, and I thought that matches perfectly to make like a little pillow or something. Don't know what, but I've got it ready. This piece I rescued. I got it in a lot on eBay. It came with some other kits and stitchy doodads, and this was mostly finished. It needed, like, I think one of the birdhouses needed its little posts, and then it needed the buttons added. And I was like, I can do that. And so I had planned to finish this and use as a smalls exchange or something, because why not? Or like put it on a bag. I don't know. I was just like, I'll do something with it. But of course I still haven't. But I do have another thrift store find from StitchCon, and it's this little tweed skirt. And I thought, yeah, that would work really nicely as the backing material. So I have all these aspirations to be super creative, but I haven't done it. This one I'm gonna redo, but this is a little kit that, or not a kit, but the little button pack thing. I forget what who the pattern is by. I also got this with Mitch Stitch, and I'm gonna redo it because I want it to not look like this. And I also forgot he needs sticks, so I need to find some sticks and get him properly situated and then properly finished. So he's a redo. Okay, and then this is the last one. This I am going to, I'm gonna re-FFO this because it's a little simple right now. But this is my adaptation of the Brooks Books Advent Animals. I picked out 8 of my favorites, and I put them in this cute little 2x2 display and added Merry and Bright. I love this. I was kind of in a rush to get it FFO'd, and I didn't have a lot of like decorative material, so it's just mounted on foam board. It's got felt and then a little glitter string to hang it up, but obviously we can do a little better. but I was waiting until I finished the other piece, which I did, and yet have not FFO'd. So we have Merry and Bright and Holly Jolly. And this one I think is my favorite, but also the cow because she has cookies, but also the polar bear, and also the elephant because look at his bow tie and he's holding the presents with his trunk. I just cannot. These pieces are so cute. They're available for free on the Brooks Books website. They are a blast to stitch. They're a lot more complicated than you might think to stitch because they're so tiny, but there's lots of details. I love them. So again, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with this. I don't have a lot of like the FFOing supplies that I would like to have for these quite yet. And we'll see when that happens, but I will be trying to get this done by Christmas. And that concludes at least this portion of the Parade of Finishes video. I am pretty sure I have some more somewhere, but not sure exactly where. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoy staring at my floor. I hope to follow this up with a FFO video, FFO parade in the future. Maybe just another finish parade. Who knows? Maybe a whip parade. I don't know. Let me know what you want to see. I'll link some of these things below. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. I'm really pleased and impressed that Jam did not make a more destructive appearance. He's sleeping or I would beckon him over now, but sorry. Okay, bye.